We will continue with our rolling coverage of voter registration throughout South Africa this morning. For now, it is the last day indeed of the first drive of the IEC's voter registration, and it's become evident that some political parties are using the drive as their unofficial electioneering campaign launch. Well, joining me in studio is political reporters Aldrin Sampear as well as Noma Bolani. Very good morning to you. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
Firstly, we'll start off with the DA. Musima Mane there this morning speaking to our reporter on the ground, Kim Daniels, and he's in the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro. How important do you think it is for him to be there, specifically looking at the issues around Athol Trollip?
It's quite important because of this issue around what happens with Athol Trollip. Will he suffer a motion of no confidence and lose his mayoralship? And having Musima Mane in Nelson Mandela Bay Council is probably an effort to reaffirm that the DA is willing to stay and will fight to stay in that mayoralship. But I don't see him actually meeting with political parties because it's more of a political party type of issue. Like, what will his message be to the councillors in Nelson Mandela Bay? Should this debate then, should the motion of no confidence in Athol Trollip be debated? What stance would he like them what stance would he like them to see take? And also what the residents' perception is of the current standoff between these coalition partners.
I think it's important to look at the fact that Musima Mane is also there to gain support from the ground up, because maybe if the people are speaking and saying we still want the DA to lead the council, then maybe it will translate to that debate in council. We do know that the EFF is threatening to pull their support of Athol Trollip. So I think, you know, him being there and having that visibility is a showcase to say we actually want to stay in this position in that council.
Indeed, they're also facing issues there with their other coalition partners, not only the EFF bringing that motion of no confidence going forward. Do you think that the DA is somewhat nervous?
They should be. They have every reason to be. And remember that the last time when the EFF leader, Julius Malema, was speaking about this issue around the vote of no confidence against Athol Trollip, and he used that, what the DA has called an unfortunate phrase, and taking him to the Equality Court, speaking about cutting the throat of the white man. That is definitely an issue, and we do see that the DA is panicking, and it could be another tool that they're using by going to the Equality Court and say that if you do not retract your statement and if you do not retract this threat against our mayor, this is Athol Trollip, we will go ahead with this legal suit against you. And this definitely does show that there is some sort of that the DA is trembling a bit, because you have Bantu Olomisa, the UDM, on the other side. It started off with them when Athol Trollip decided that he's going to fire his deputy mayor at the time, and the UDM was pretty upset about that. They also threatened to go to court, and that led to the EFF also coming in support of the UDM.
Definitely. Speaking of UDM, Bantu Olomisa will be positioning himself in the Eastern Cape. We do know that it's a stronghold. Your views on his positioning there?
I think it was a good decision for him to start in the Eastern Cape. It is a stronghold. From the 2016 local government elections, do see that the UDM is gaining some support, especially in the Eastern Cape. And I think from him being in his stronghold, it's going to kind of motivate the people to have some sort of belief in the UDM, especially following, you know, the drama from Nelson Mandela Bay, and them saying actually we have fight in us to make sure that we actually get to the polls and we find positions.
Definitely. Moving up northwest, we do know that Freedom Front has chosen the northwest to be their stronghold, and they're putting their focus on their campaign there.
A farming area, first of all. Yeah. Very important will be what the Freedom Front Plus will be saying to its support base around this debate that's currently happening. The question around land expropriation without compensation. And I guess that voters and those who support the Freedom Front Plus would want some sort of reassurance that the Freedom Front Plus, although it sounds as if it is the minority party, if you take out the DA stance on the issue around land expropriation without compensation, that its voice will be heard, and they'll make sure that they'll fight this issue until the bitter end.
Yes, as Aldrin has said, the farming community is very strong in terms of the support base of the Freedom Front Plus. We do know that Dr. Groeneveld has spoken in Parliament saying that they're going to oppose this motion to have land expropriation or compensation. I think that there must be some sort of, I don't want to use the word fear, but it might be some jitters amongst farm owners of how exactly is this process going to happen. So they need, the party to kind of fight for them and give them the assurance that, somebody is fighting for them because they think this is their livelihood. And what will happen in cases of, if you look in Zimbabwe, they don't want it to happen that way. So they need some sort of assurance that the party is going to fight for them and they won't have any problems moving forward. And
probably, the other thing is that it might be voter registration weekend, but for the likes of the Freedom Front Plus, this presents itself as an opportunity for consultation. Speak to your support base, ask your support base, what do they think of this and what ideas do they think the Freedom Front Plus must go and present, saying that this is what our constituency is saying about this matter.
Having a look at the KZN area, IFP leader Mangosuthu Buthelezi is doing the rounds there. We do know that the IFP is in somewhat competition with the ANC. Now, going into this voter registration, for the first time in a long time, we're seeing new change in leadership, new change in leader. Do you think that the way that the political parties, specifically in what was deemed ANC strongholds, KZN, are going to be doing things very differently?
Remember that at some point, the KZN was an IFP stronghold. The ANC then came in with, of course, with the election of Jacob Zuma at the time as the president of the ANC. The ANC's support base increased dramatically to such a point where where ANC in KwaZulu-Natal's membership increased and surpassing the membership of the Eastern Cape. The Eastern Cape, which has always had the most number of supports in terms of membership for the ANC. But that is changing now, and that's because also of the issue around the National Freedom Fund, the National Freedom Party, the NFP. But now the NFP is having its own issues that it's battling with, and that's the reason why we're seeing that the IFP is regaining some of the lost ground.
Yes, I think it's important for the IFP to make sure that it's visible. Like Aldrin was saying, the NFP has lost a lot of ground if you look at the fact that they had technicalities in 2016 local government elections due to the infighting, and they failed to make sure that they meet the candidature. So now the IFP is making sure that in the strongholds in which they lost to the NFP, they kind of regain that support and also try to regain the support that was lost from the ANC when Jacob Zuma was president.
Speaking of which, we've just heard light of a very, very sad story this morning, of course, of that ANC official in KZN being killed. We still have to find more details as to whether it was a politically motivated murder. What do you make of that, specifically around the timing?
I think the timing is an issue because now this is basically the unofficial launch of campaigning. We do know that KZN has been struggling with political killings, in the past, with the last biggest one being the killing of Sindiso Magaka. I think people are going to look, and it's going to be speculation as to what exactly are the problems in terms of internal politics within the party, and will this affect the ANC in terms of drumming up support ahead of next year's election.
Does it also affect the IEC in terms of the work that they're supposed to be doing in the province? Because there would be that fear as an IEC official if you work in that province, knowing that this province is prone to political killings and so forth. At which point does an IEC official also fall prey to this?
All right, so let's move on to ANC. Of course, the heavyweights, both the president and the deputy, will be in Gauteng. Do you think that that was a good strategic move?
I think it was very important for them. Very calculated. It was very important. I think because looking back at the local government elections, when they lost the two metros, Johannesburg and Tshwane, so it's important.
Was a shock.
Yes, it was a big shock to everyone. And I think it's important for them to kind of reinforce their presence in those bases and to kind of give confidence to their supporters that we are back with the force and we're going to try to rectify the challenges that we had in the last administration. I think it's important for them, especially in Tshwane, to kind of have a presence to say, we are here, we understand that there are problems, but as the ANC, we want to get back on top.
I actually wonder what President Cyril Ramaphosa and the Deputy President, Didi Mabuza's message will be, especially for the constituency in Pretoria, in Tshwane, because remember that one of the reasons that they lost Tshwane was because of the infighting that was happening at the time, and that's why they lost their support base.
I'm going to ask you to hold it there. Let's actually listen into what Didi had to say earlier on.
Okay.
Thank you, Deputy President, for talking to us. And just you're in Tshwane. What's the feeling? It's the first time I'm seeing you around here. You mentioned that you are new, from this province, but of course now you have, at a national level. Now, how do you feel being in Tshwane?
Very good. I'm over the moon. I'm meeting my comrades here. I feel I can be here more and more, interact with my people. I feel I've got a role to play to assist in whatever challenges our people are facing here.
And speaking of those challenges, you've interacted with some people. They were excited to see you. What are they saying?
Well, there's a big problem of human settlement. There are some people who are in informal settlement. They want service stands and all that. They are raising issues of unemployment, which these are issues that I know at a national level we're dealing with these issues. But practically, I think we'll come and work with the municipality here and work with the province to see how best we change the lives of our people here.
And speaking of that, municipality is now in the hands of the opposition. So do you feel that perhaps the next round you're going to be able to win it back?
Definitely. Definitely. You see me here. I'm here on a fight back. I'm here to work with my comrades. Our people probably, they were not happy with one or two things that we did. And we promised them that we are going to correct those things. And please let them come back home. Let's go forward and deal with our challenges, that of building a better life for all our people. Those mistakes that have been committed, we are saying to our people, we are capable of self-correcting ourselves. We'll correct ourselves, we'll reconnect with them. What we're doing now, we are reconnecting with them.
Let's take one question from NN7 and within the visit. No?
Yes. Looking at the voter registration drive that the ANC has been spearheading, would you say that the people are taking heed of this call and that they're coming in their numbers to register?
Oh, I'm excited. With the mood, especially young people are coming forward to register. I don't know what has triggered them. All of a sudden, they are willing to stand up and go register. This is a positive sign for our country. And I think as leaders, as political parties, we must accept this positive mood with our open hands. And we must encourage our people to go and register. This is a sign of a democracy that is deepening.
Now, if I can just your comments recently, what is with this romance with the EFF that's taking place currently? You said perhaps Malema should come back. Just speak to us about that.
Well, I've got a special space in my heart for Julius. We had times together. He knows when he was in the ANC, I supported him to be the president of the Youth League. And I remember Comrade Julius saying, my blood is green, black, green, and gold. My blood. I will never leave the ANC. And I want to remind him of those words. My blood is black, green, and gold. I will never leave the ANC. Right. And I feel the ANC has lost in Comrade Julius. The ANC will be better off with him inside the fold. So I'm going to do my best to request him to reconsider coming back home.
Just laughing awfully about that romance that Didi seems to be having with Julius Malema. Speaking of the Commander-in-Chief, he's chosen Limpopo to be his province of a choice for voter electioneering campaign. Was this a wise choice? It does already seem to be considered an EFF stronghold.
Well, certainly for the EFF, because he's from that province and he's always campaigning in that province, and of course he votes in that province. It's certainly a strategic vote in the sense that if you consider the likes of Cyril Ramaphosa, the new president of the ANC, that's his ancestral home base. He's from Venda, and there has been a lot of support for him. I remember actually, was it two years ago, when we were doing the voter registration drive in Venda, people were very, very excited to see him in town. So I guess this is the EFF basically saying, let's try and ring fence the support that we have, and let's not lose the support that we have to the ANC through Ramaphosa's support base and the charisma that he's been displaying throughout.
I think they realize their competition now, that they have an ANC leader who has, strong support base in that province, and they can't leave it up to chance to say because Julius Malema is from that province, it's going to come automatically that they have the same sort of support. So it's very strategic and important for them to make sure they go far and wide. I do know that he's in the Capricorn region of that province right now, and it's not just looking at his hometown of Seshego. So they're realizing that we actually might have stiff competition in his home province.
Definitely. And speaking around, having a look at positioning oneself, we do know that Julius, along with, other parties, were quite instrumental in continuing to push on the notion of land without land expropriation and continuing with that. And now that we're actually seeing that under an ANC government, what are we looking at to be the positioning factors that political parties, your EFF and your DA, are going to be doing going forward to try to attract more voters? Just
listening to what Didi Mabuza had to say there about Julius Malema and saying that Julius Malema said that his blood will remain black. What is it, black, gold and green? Yeah. It speaks to a relationship that the ANC believes that they could have with Julius Malema and trying to probably woo Julius Malema back into the fold. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen. But there seems to be some sort of relationship that's,
the relationship is moving towards kind of a reconciliation a point of view. We do know that, remember that interview we did last year with Julius, saying that if they agree on the policies, they might even close shop and go back to the ANC. So it looks as if, the bromance might just become a reality.
All right, wrapping things off here at home, I'm just going to use this opportunity because I have you both in studio. Of course, Kenya, the elections there and the peace accord that was struck between the opposition leader Raila Odinga as well as President Uhuru Kenyatta. Can you give us more details on that?
Shocking.
It came as a surprise. It came as a surprise. NASA is saying, though, this is now the National Super Alliance that Raila Odinga is part of. They are saying that, whoa, we weren't part of these negotiations, we weren't consulted, so they are rejecting this new peace accord between the two. But very important, though, that I think something as South Africans we should take out of this, out of what has happened in Kenya, and it's something that I spoke to the CEO of the IEC about last night as well, is a threat to the independence of the IEC, or in the Kenya's case, the IEBC, when you have politicians and political parties continuously casting aspersions on the independence of the electoral systems and speaking about political influence in the electoral system, that they are going to create a situation where even voters start having doubt about the work that the IEC is doing, and would start believing that there is political interference in how the IEC goes about its work. I think that's very, very important. It's something that we need to continuously drive home. And I remember even the chairperson of the IEC mentioning this, saying that this is a big threat to the credibility of the IEC. And that's what we saw happen in Kenya, where even the courts were being attacked.
Yes, the courts did come in Kenya, and even with the latest result or the last result, there's kind of uncertainty on whether or not it was free or fair. We do know that NASA had called for a boycott of those elections, so it was rather shocking to see Odinga agree to this peace accord. And we do know that a lot of the support base that NASA has is saying that they feel betrayed, looking at the speculation of the timing of this accord. You know that the State Secretary was arriving on the eve of their meeting, and we do know that Kenya is struggling in terms of money. The government admitted that they actually are broke. So it's kind of, the question is, are we striking this peace accord mainly to get foreign aid to help us through this tough financial time, or what is the situation? But looking forward, I don't think people are going to easily accept this unity accord, and we do know that Kenya is a very divisive country.
Definitely such an interesting chat. I'd love to continue, but that is a wrap up. Thank you very much for joining us, political reporters Aldrin, Sampear, as well as Noma, Bolani, talking all things voter registration, IEC, around the political parties here in South Africa, as well as just a brief overview in Kenya and what's been taking place there with regard